Okay, it is 9:42 a.m. I had a trade with XCPL, and this was like in my mind a dip and rip. So it had a bit of an uptrend right in the morning, had a gap up and everything, lots of volume, and then it started to sell off. I went under VWAP, and I thought it could be something where I can try to hold the round number of this 70 sub penny level, be below VWAP, and then eventually try to regain itself. Essentially, I was in a bit early, but it was still according to what I wanted it to do. At 9:35, I was in 10,000 shares at 75, and it did continue the downtrend a bit more. It did get as low as 72. It took a bit longer, but I like how the volume was also fading right here until it got to this point right here where somebody started to sell a lot more shares. But we never broke under 72, and I was ready to get out if it was going to break below 72, because then we get into 71, which is a very tippy wick right here at the bottom, and then it might get to 70 and wipe out 70, and then we have a panic and it sells off, and it was just a gap and crap or something like that. So that was my idea. If it wasn't going to work out, to cut. If it was going to break below 72, I did hold it, and then I did sell half of my position at 941. I actually got a lucky sell into the 80 sub penny level, and I did get out half of my position. I gave it a little bit more time. I just don't like how many sellers there were at the ask, and that kind of threw me off. So I decided to sell the rest at 78 at 942, which was right here. And it can work out over a longer period of time. This thing can maybe have another dip, ideally higher than 72, regain itself, or maybe it can just try to continue the hold right here and break VWAP and then try to get above the 80 sub penny level. But I think I traded it okay. I do want to see, however, if it is going to make a higher low off of this level and then get above it, because then maybe the next time I see something like this on a dip and rip setup, I can probably try to hold better and be more profitable that way. I'll make an update later, but that was pretty much it. I haven't been looking at anything else, although I was interested in CYDY a bit, because it was like down and it broke under this level of 72, but it doesn't seem like it has a lot of price action going on. I will make an update later. Alright, it is 10:41 a.m. and I want to go over a trade with XCPL, but I also want to be interested in it if it looks like it's going to try to break above 1 penny. I had a fat finger mistake in this one. I did try to buy the high day breakout, as you can see right here, and I bought 10,000 shares at 87. I was 10.06. I wasn't too happy with it because it was just kind of trading up with like no volume. It just kind of had a wide spread. It would just not have the best uptrend, but I wasn't here when it was doing this, and this might have been too sketchy for me to consider a dip buy. Like, oh, sure, it went up, I could have bought here. No, actually, this thing looks like it was just going to break the day low, and it might try to sell off and then maybe just be that gap and crap. So I probably wouldn't have messed with this, but I was gaining the interest once it looked like it was going to break the day high, and then I fat fingered. I should have sold all 10,000 shares because the price action started to look really bad. But instead, I only sold 1,000 shares instead of 10,000 shares at 10.08. I should have sold 10,000 shares at 88 because it wasn't looking good, the price action. It was just uptrending, and then when I bought, it looked like it just hit a top somewhere. It just didn't want to move anymore. And at that point, I should have been out, and I would have just gotten out for a scratch, just $1 profit. But instead, I realized, crap, this thing, is still going to downtrend. I'm actually still in the position. And at that point, I did sell ultimately right here at the very bottom, almost the very bottom. At 82, I sold the rest at 10.14 because it started the trade with a spread. Like 85 would be at the ask, and then 81 was at the bid. And nobody was hitting 81, but once it actually did, I decided to get out because I thought it might take 81 out, and then it'll get under 80 and go into the 70s where VWAP is, which I thought could have been pretty realistic. It didn't do it in this case. It did turn around the next few minutes, but I don't regret that. That's just a lame, bull crap, widespread uptrend, whatever. It did get much higher. If I was out, when I was supposed to at 88, I could have maybe have tried again. Although this is a bit ugly, I'd probably just wait for it if it can do a clean breakout and get to a penny, that would be something I'd rather be more interested in than this. I shouldn't have lost as much as I did there, so I'm gonna be just down at least right now 40 pennies. Ideally, I'd be up like just $5 just from that one trade here that kind of worked out. Didn't get that much above VWAP, and then it would have been a scratch right here, and I would have been able to have sold just a little higher than where I bought. And now I'd be looking at it for the break above, one penny, and I have like some cushion in case the setup here fails. I also didn't have the right amount of shares. I should have had 15,000 shares, because the first trade with 10,000 shares is fine, because for all you know, it might just, just absolutely downtrend and, right at the market open and everything and get to 45. Right, but once it starts trading a bit longer in this range, it starts to be a lot harder for it to just break the day low and head that low. So I'm probably gonna trade the next setup with 15,000 shares if we have a setup, and I will make an update later. That was just a fat finger mistake. I was distracted, and that sucks, but it could have been much worse. It is 1:04 p.m. and I want to go over a trade I had with CYDY, and this one did kind of work, but yeah, today's just not my day. I had that fat finger mistake with XCPL, and I could have been able to have gone out of it without losing anything. But back at 10:08, right around here, and I had my sell right here again because I should have been out completely at 88 when it didn't look like it was going to do the high day breakout right then and there. Although it did get a little bit higher than the level, it didn't like break past it with a bunch of momentum. And I had a trade with CYDY. The idea with this one is that it just was just down because it had a whole bunch of volume. It had a downtrend as low as the 70-cent level. And then when I entered, there was a big bidder supporting it, and I thought it could try to at least get back to the 80-cent resistance level, and ideally maybe 77. And then another thing going for it is that it had this downtrend, started trading back and forth, but it started to get a little congested. It was starting the uptrend, and it was already above VWAP. I Sorry about that. I did get in at 10:57, and that was at 450. So that was at, yeah, 10:57, 450 shares at 74.4. So that was at 10:57. Right here, 10:57, and that was at 74.4. And again, there was like a big bidder supporting it. It was like, I don't know, 40, 50, 60,000 shares supporting it. And I thought, all right, we have a big bidder. We're above VWAP. It had a sell off in the morning, a lot of volume. It could try to uptrend over a longer period of time and ideally get to 80 cents, which was, pretty high, pretty massive. But I thought I could get to 77, and maybe that might be the top because it might not be able to get above this level right here. And it just did not really work out. The next minute when I got in, the big bidder was taken out, which sucked. And then we had like a print, I think it was 2,500 shares that went off right here at 76. And then it came back. It was holding VWAP, but it wasn't looking that nice anymore. And then when we started having some selling price action with a lot of volume, I got out. This is a very manipulated thing. I got out at 11:09 at 73, and I wouldn't have mind if maybe, okay, the setup failed, it broke under VWAP, I'm out, and then it continues to downtrend some more, or it just trades under VWAP. But as you can see, this is almost like manipulation. Like they just brought it down to get some people out, including me, and then they just brought it back, and look at this uptrend that it had. Now, it also had another, freak out wick towards the bottom under VWAP again. Super manipulated price action, and I think with this lesson in mind, there's two things. One, I can try to have a better risk level, like when I was in it around VWAP. Since we were already above VWAP and so close to it, and any little, manipulated flicker or whatever this could be, could just get under VWAP so easily. I could, number one, maybe have like a wider risk level, perhaps like the day low, or this level right here, not including the day low wick. That could have been a risk level, and then I would have held through this, and ideally I could have been able to have sold into the uptrend for a profit. Or number two, I can also just be a little more cautious and maybe avoid trading stocks that do not have a lot of volume, because they can be super manipulated. Again, we have that little downtrend here with a bunch of volume, and then they just brought it immediately back up. Then it was working above VWAP again, and then one little freaky wick with a whole bunch of volume, and then it started the uptrend. That just seems so manipulative. So I think I'm going to take those two things into consideration. It does suck that I sold right around here at 73, but I'm glad I did, because if this thing wasn't manipulated and it was just a normal thing with a significant amount of volume, so this type of manipulation doesn't happen, it could have continued to downtrend some more and panic, because after all, it did break above that level of 80 cents, which was pretty significant throughout the entire chart. And it could have just broken under it, traded back and forth, and then lose momentum, and then it just continues to fade and sell off. But that wasn't the case. I had these two little dips right here that I could have potentially have held through if I had a wider risk level, or if I didn't just trade it at all, because it just doesn't have enough volume. That could be something that I could take into consideration. It sucks today's gonna be a red day, but at least I tried. And ideally I would yeah, I think I would be either break even or maybe slightly up if I didn't have the fat finger mistake with XCPL. So yeah, today's just not my day, but at least I learned from these few trades, and I don't think I'll have any more trades unless something really nice happens. I was looking at actually shorting this because it had such a lame run up with not much volume, and then there was resistance at the 80 cent level. The big sellers at 80 cents, they're not there anymore, but I was thinking that it could be a short setup, but currently I just don't trade enough size to make it worth it, because I have to pay commissions to short sell stocks on Schwab. I might be interested in buying it if it looked better, but I mean, there would have to be like a 200,000 share bidder to show up to get me really interested in it. It can still option, but that's pretty much it for right now. Unless I happen to trade setup, another setup, I'll probably not make an update until the market's closed. Alright, it is 8:43 p.m. and I am here to call it off. Today's gonna really stink. It's nice making these daily day trading videos when I'm doing well, I'm trading well, even if I'm not making a lot, or I do make a lot more than usual, trying my best. But man, today just really sucked. I'll be down on the day 12 bucks and 45 cents, and that was with a few trades. Again, XCPL. This one was a good attempt for what it was way back here. This one, was annoying because it worked out later. After having this dip that threw me off again, I could probably try to stay away from stocks with a high, I guess, riskiness to it, because of the fact that it doesn't really trade that much, or just have a wider spread. And then that one trade with CYDY, super lame, because it it did the sketchy move towards the upside. It worked out, just not when I was still in the setup. It did it much later. And then I had one more trade. I don't really know if I really want to go over this one too much. This one really sucks, but very similar to the other day, where I've been trying to find like like a move where over a longer period of time it's going to reverse. I like how the overall markets, if you were to draw like a trend line like this, maybe something that kind of follows this range. I like how it, was under this downtrend, and then it broke past it right here, and that led to an uptrend, and then it came all the way back close to the trend line, but it never got under it like it was back here, and then it uptrended. And then we saw that same thing right here, and this time it actually continued to uptrend some more, and I think it can downtrend at some point, and then it can, potentially be able to offer another move towards the upside. So I've been trying to find the top of this one, and it just didn't work out because I got in essentially a short setup, and I didn't have my stop in place, which was bad. I did buy, which is SQQQ here, like a short position of the overall markets. I did buy some at 1103, right around here, and it wasn't looking too bad, but I didn't have my stop in place. I should have been out the moment that we broke the day high in the overall markets, the S&P. Once it just broke the overall day high again, I was in at 1103, which was around right here. Again, my short position. I should have been out as soon as it broke the day high, which was at 11.19ish, and I didn't have my stop, and that was a mistake. 11.19 right here is when I should have been cut, but instead, you know, I looked back later and I did get out of the position ultimately, and I was out. I did put a stop later, but you know, I put a stop at 208, and it essentially continued to downtrend some more. And I deserve getting out of my position. I eventually got out at 208, right at the bottom before it had this bullcrap turnaround. Very similar with the other two OTC setups. Doesn't work out. I get out. Stupid move right afterwards. Just really bad luck. Not my day. Fat finger trade. Really crappy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. At least the bar is set low. Ideally, I'm not going to screw up as much as I did today. Tomorrow, that's all I have for today.